Oh, hi! My name is Polina Gazeeva and I'm an artist living and working in Berlin. Welcome to my home! I was always making art ever since I was small. My family is quite creative. My parents used to work as interior designers, and my mom also used to paint and make artworks. So I think they saw from a small age that I'm quite gifted, that I have a talent. So they pushed me in that regard quite a lot. And they brought me to museums, like they showed me a lot of art. And so, yeah, I was always making art ever since I was small. I think this is a very difficult question that everyone always asks. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know where the ideas come from. I think maybe they don't come from anywhere. I think maybe they're just always kind of there and I discover them. Usually when I start making something, I don't plan it, I don't pre-sketch it. Most of the time, I just go for it and then something happens. Like, for example, I might have a slight idea of the kind of figure I want to use, the kind of pose I want to use, or yeah, it's spontaneous, it just kind of pops into my head and then it's happening. I can't say I don't feel inspired. I do feel inspired, it's just it's hard to put into words what it exactly means or how it manifests. With paintings, it is usually such an intuitive process for me that I don't really capture the moment when I'm like, oh, this is how I want it to be. I have to repaint things a lot because I don't think about them beforehand, or I don't. I try something and then I see if it works or if it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, I have to like redo the whole thing. And on one hand, maybe it makes the process longer and harder than it needs to be, but also this is really the only way I can work at all. I don't think I believe in role models. I feel like having a role model is kind of trying to find an easy way of like figuring out your life. You're just like, oh, this is what they did, so this is gonna be my goal as well. I think it's much harder to try to figure out what you are like and what you want to do and how you want to be. There are, of course, artists I like, but I wouldn't call them role models. I don't really support the idea that you have to struggle as an artist or you have to push yourself all the time as an artist. Like, I don't think you have to push yourself. I think that's a very old-fashioned view on things. Like, I don't think things need to be difficult. There are two people in my life who are also artists who I admire a lot, and I treasure a lot the connection that we have. And I also feel like in some ways we even make similar art, even though it's just a big coincidence, kind of. One of them is my best friend from high school. She's also an artist and she also makes beautiful art, so I treasure a lot what she has to say and I treasure a lot what she does, and I feel like there's just a connection that we have. And the second one is the art teacher that I had in high school. Like, we're still in contact, we still talk, and I feel like we just understand each other on a level in which I don't connect with most of the people, and that's very nice to have. I usually do go for something that's, as you said, a mix of reality and something else. And I usually do like when my works have this light feeling to them, almost like they are unfinished, almost like they are a sketch, but not quite, because I feel like it gives them this freedom to like move and evolve, and I like that. Sometimes they feel to me like dreams. You know, when in a dream you see something and it makes sense to you, but it doesn't quite actually make sense, but your brain is just like, yeah, no, that of course. And when you wake up, you try to put it together, but it doesn't really work. I think that's how I like to view my artworks as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't think my art is that dark, especially recently. Like, it used to be much darker when I was in high school, when I started with the bodies, because I was like, it's an edgy teenager. So my art, I didn't like that. Like, back then, I wouldn't have agreed that my art is dark, but it was much darker. It was much more direct as well, I think. But with time, especially now, I don't feel like it's that dark anymore. I feel like it evolved somewhere else beyond that. I think sometimes I use charcoal or pastels, not to necessarily make my paintings darker, but to just to visually make them feel like they're finished to me. And I think sometimes happens because I feel like I'm not that good of a painter and I need something else to like actually finish the painting, and I'm not getting there with just paint, so I have to add something else. But I'm trying, for example, with this painting, I don't know how it's gonna go, but I wanna try avoiding using anything else but oils. But the last time I did that, I feel like the painting ended up being very heavy, and I don't like that. So I'm trying to see if I can make it like still feel light without using any additional materials. I mean, it's an interesting question because I don't know exactly how I make decisions. I mean, I do have a lot of experience painting. Like, I have been making art my whole life, so I think when you do something for such a long time, you're able to make choices without actually actively thinking about them. The same way when you're a dancer, you don't always need a choreo to follow to dance. I think the same way here, maybe. Like, you just know. Like, you instinctually know what works best. You kind of know what colors work. You know what kind of what you need to make the composition work. So it's not a conscious choice that you make, but it's still a choice that you make based maybe on all of the experience you've had so far. It's usually just a specific feeling that I get that the painting is finished when I don't want to work on it anymore, I guess. Because at some point I get tired of one painting and I want to be done with it. That's usually also a point when it's more or less done. Yeah, when it just feels finished. When I look at it and I feel like, okay, there's nothing else I can actually add here to make it better. I used to watch videos, or I used to watch like a series while I paint or listen to music, but I try not to do that anymore. I try to actually paint in silence because I find that once you actually start, it's much easier to engage with the process when there's nothing else distracting you. And I find that I get interesting like thoughts and ideas when I paint in silence, and it's much easier for me to connect with the painting as well, and it just feels much better. And I feel like for my brain as well, it's nice to have like some moments of silence, because otherwise in my life there's always some kind of noise going on. Like, I find it very hard to be at home, especially alone, when there's nothing happening. Like, I get bored. So I kind of forcing myself now to not listen to anything when I paint, at least, so I can give myself this break and the space to actually focus on the art. I think I enjoyed the most about painting the way painting makes me feel. Like, it gives me a sense of comfort and confidence and just a sense of self. Like, I feel so unstable about so many things in my life generally. Like, my views on things change, my interests change, the projects I want to work on change all the time. And with painting, it's just such a stable thing in my life that's been going on forever. So it just gives me a sense of like, okay, this is a thing that I can connect myself with and I can identify myself with, and that just makes me feel secure and good and calm, and I think that's what I treasure the most. I mean, I think there are a lot of messages probably, but they are going to be different for every person that sees it. And even for me, I don't even really like giving names to my works, because I feel like if you give a name, then you're already like influencing the way someone is gonna look at it. I don't think good art tries to tell you something specific. I think good art just manages to bring something out of you, out of the viewer. So it's more a statement on what this person is like. Why do they see this painting in this specific way? Why is it their interpretation? For example, my mom, sometimes she sees that I post something on Instagram, and then she like sends me a voice message very excitedly and like tells me about like her interpretation of it, and she's like, oh, this is this, and it's like signifying this and that. And then she does that and she expects me to be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to be. And I'm like, and I just sit there like, yeah, that's interesting. And then she asked me, what does it mean? I'm like, I wish I knew, but I don't know. And also, even for myself, my paintings change a lot, or the meaning behind them changes. So if I look now at something I made like 3 years ago, I'm actually able to look at it from a completely different perspective. And sometimes it like clicks and makes sense for me. And I'm like, oh, I know why I did this. Because back then I was going through this thing. But while I'm working on something, I'm usually almost blind to why it's like this. I can't really tell it's just happening. And then maybe like years later, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, of course I did this painting because of this and that. Like the artworks also exist outside of you. They exist outside of your interpretation, outside of the meaning you put into them. So why are you trying to make them about something so specific? It's about, to me, it's the same as if trying to take a person and be like, okay, this person is this. But like that's never true. People change all the time, people evolve all the time. They're gonna be a different person to each other person who meets them. So it's kind of the same with the art, I think. I very often have my dog in my paintings. I think, like, I guess she inspires me in a way, maybe? I don't know. I thought about this question a lot, actually. I used to think that I want to be very famous with my art. I used to think that I want to be making a lot of money with just my art. But I actually don't think it's quite true anymore. Like, I think the wanting to be famous was actually coming like from my mom's dreams rather than my own dreams. And the money part, I think, was coming from just fear of not having money. So I think actually my goal with my art is to just to live in some nice place, some beautiful place, and make beautiful art, and just do art things, and maybe have like exhibitions, and maybe organize my own things, but in a way that feels good and authentic to me. And everything that I want to do out of place. Yeah, I think my goal is to live somewhere beautiful, make art, and also maybe take part in exhibitions or organize my own things, but in a way that feels authentic to me and feels good to me, and where I'm not stressed about money or anything else. Like, I don't think I actually care about being super famous or making a lot of money with my art. I don't think it matters. As long as I actually have the space and the energy to create, it doesn't matter where my income comes from or how many people know about it. Yeah, you have to come to my house to actually look at it. But yeah, the best way people can get to know me and my practice is through YouTube right now, because I'm trying to be as authentic as I can there, and I'm trying to share my process and my feelings about what I do. And yeah, so YouTube and my website